Hello everybody, this is Purge bringing you guys a first-person replay commentary. Sorry I've been uploading so few videos lately, been kind of busy with things. This weekend I played a LAN that was local. There was only about 4 teams that showed up, but it was really fun. And we had quite a few captains move games from it, so I thought I'd commentate some of them. Played almost exclusively offlane at this tournament. Wasn't really sure what we were going to do, but I played with Aosin, Lumi, DPM, and we had a random fifth. His name is Tom, and he lives in San Diego, I believe, and he's very good. So I'm going to make some videos from this, and I hope you guys learn a lot. This first game is going to be a Bristleback game. I know I made a Bristleback game about 4 months ago, but I thought this game would be good for upload. He's a fairly popular hero right now. It's kind of gone up in popularity recently. His win rate's okay, and his skill build is pretty much accurate. I like this skill build usually. Sometimes for offlane, you'll see Bristlebacks max out his back by 9 instead. You'll get a second level of Bristleback here at level 4, but sometimes it's more delayed. If you look at common items that are built, Power Treads, Blade Mail, Crimson Guard, Vanguard, things like that, Heart of Trask, Assault Cuirass. And if you look at some of these win rates, some really obvious things stand out. Heart has a huge win rate, Assault Cuirass has a huge win rate, Sange and Yasha has a huge win rate. And these are actually the items you want to build on Bristleback in almost every case. The reason Blade Mail's win rate's not very high is because the way that Blade Mail works is the amount of damage that you reflect is the amount of damage that you take. So if you turn your back to them and you reduce the damage you take by 40%, and then it's also reduced by magic resistance or armor or whatever, that's the damage that gets reflected by Blade Mail. So the only time that I would buy Blade Mail in Bristleback is if you're against a hero that just has an overwhelming amount of damage, such as like a Huskar. Something like that is a really good time for a Blade Mail, maybe even like a Clockwork, like a hero or an Ursa maybe, that one-on-ones you and generally does too much damage. Blade Mail's okay in those situations, but generally you don't want to build it. Vanguard is definitely a very good item to have, but you usually just want to grab the Vanguard. I don't personally agree with upgrading to Crimson Guard unless you're, I don't know. So if they have some kind of a summon army, maybe it's worth it, but the problem with Bristle is usually that people build them too tanky. I used to do this as well. I would always go Vanguard Pipe every single game. Pipe actually has a pretty big win ratio. I think that's partially because Pipe has been buffed. It now does 10% magic resistance aura to your allies, which is really good. Most of the time you don't want to get a Pipe though. I think the best items to basically have in them are Power Treads into Vanguard. You should have a wand in there, of course. The only reason this win rate's really low is because if you lose, you're more likely to have a wand because you're not super overfarmed. If you're really overfarmed, you don't have a wand. That's why that win rate's probably like that. But get a wand in the early game, Treads, wand, Vanguard, then you make a Sange and Yasha. Sange and Yasha is really important because it turns you into a carry basically. It allows you to leverage your plus damage that you get from your ultimate, and you get lots of movement speed, you get better chase. It's really, really important to have. And then after the Sange and Yasha, you either build a couple things depending on your opponents. You either build an AC to get your armor up really high and increase your attack speed and reduce their armor, which makes your quills do more, all that stuff. Maybe sometimes you'll build a heart, and sometimes you'll build an Abyssal Blade, an item that pro players do build sometimes. Abyssal Blade, Bristleback's really good when you have enough attack speed. So with that said, that's just popular pub games. If we take a look at me as a Bristleback player, I actually have a very low win rate for pubs, 35%, and I've only played 20 games. I actually felt I feel really good about Bristleback personally. So I think my problem with Bristleback is that I haven't been playing him quite correctly. I think some of the other times I would play him, I would buy other items that weren't quite ideal. Crimson Guard, I would buy Vlad's, things like that. It's just not good to buy those items. They look very tempting because you're like, oh, I want lifesteal, I want survivability, but you really don't. You want raw HP and you want more damage. One of the reasons Heart's so good is because the way that Bristleback works is every 250 damage you take from the reel, you release a quill. And if you get a Heart of Trask, that means that you get up to 4 more quills released. So Heart is actually one of the best damage items you can get on this hero because it gives you so much more leverage. 4 extra quills means, what, 36 damage a piece, plus, that's the stack damage, sorry. So the quill base damage is 80. So if you have a Heart, you get 4 more of those, which is 320 physical AoE damage. And then you're stacking, what, up to 3 of those or something like that. So that's like 90 added to that. So it's I think that's how it works. It's basically a lot of damage. It is a huge amount of damage. So having a Heart of Trask is really helpful towards giving you get 40 damage out of it, and you get the regen, and you get tons of HP, and ends up stacking very well. Some games you do need a pipe, maybe sometimes you need a Black King bar if they have too many stuns, but we'll basically go into what I did this game. But I'm honestly a little surprised my win rate's so low on him. I think he's actually one of my lowest win rate heroes if I take a look at that. He's actually my lowest win rate hero in all of Dota 2, which is pretty surprising to me because I actually feel okay at the hero. But hopefully this video will do something to tell you that I'm not completely terrible at Spearbreaker. So we were drafting here. nothing to... I'm just going to jump forward. I don't really want to talk too much about drafting this game at least. But we picked the Bristleback about there. And if you look at the heroes that I'm against an Earthshaker, a Rubik, Viper, and a Puck. He's pretty good against Viper because you have a lot of physical damage, and Viper has high magic resistance and is a little weak to physical damage, so it's okay there. Puck can't do that much to stop me. Rubik, as well as having a little issues. He's got low armor, so I can chase him down pretty easily. And Earthshaker as well. I can survive his chain stuns. Don't have to worry about BKB usually, and I can generally chase through that. And their last pick was a Razor, I believe. And our last pick was a Wind Ranger. So I can run at most of these heroes. The Razor's a little scary because he can sap my damage, but as a whole, it's going to be okay. So if we jump forward here, we had a little bit of Skype issues here. So we were doing a... I don't remember if we were doing a dual offlane or not, but I did go into the offlane. I think I was expecting to be solo, but when you're playing Bristol, I really recommend getting a Mango on the hero. He's one of the few heroes that I really feel like Mango is a core item, and that's because your mana pool is very low. His int gain is actually his highest stat gain, 2.8 mana per int per level, excuse me. So you get a lot of mana over your levels, and that means that early game your mana is pretty low, but late game it's high. So in the early game it's low, and Quill Spray is 35 damage, does stacking damage. So first Quill does 20 damage, next Quill does 50 damage, and the Quill after that does 80 damage, right? The Quill after that does 110 damage or something like that, plus the base damage. I forgot about the base damage. So it's like 20, 50, and the next one does 100. I think it goes up by basically 50 at level 1, so it goes 20, 50, 100, 150. That's a lot of AoE physical damage. So to cast multiple Quill Sprays in a row, which is what you want to do, if you accomplish that, then you can potentially... You see how exponential the damage is? And sometimes you run out of mana because you only have 182 mana. So having a Mango not only allows you to stay in lane a lot longer, but also gives you the chance to be able to bam Mango and Quill Spray an extra 2 times, which could do an extra, 200 physical damage or something crazy like that. So very, very good to have it on Bristleback, in my opinion. A Mango is in a lot of ways core. Stout Shield's also very needed because you will be taking a lot of damage from heroes, creeps, stuff like that. So the damage block will be good, and of course a lot of regen as well. It would be nice to have stats on the hero, but I just think you need the Stout Shield, you need the regen items, and I think it's going to end up being okay. So this game I ended up blocking the pull spot. A lot of people do deward this ward. Maybe I shouldn't have put it there. If you go farther to the left side, that one's less likely to be dewarded in my experience. People won't really expect it as much. And now what we're aiming to do is potentially go into the rune spot here. We knew that they were there, so what I started doing was I initiated and I started the quills really early. It's important that you start the quills very early like this. Look how much damage they're doing at this point. Like, that was all my mana pool, right? I was able to cast Quill Spray, like, 5 times or something like that. But I started them off so that when the fight actually began, then I would, as they were hard committed, I would have a lot of Quill Sprays and it would do a lot of damage, basically. So definitely start the quills early, because it doesn't do a lot until the 5th comes out, and that's about 15 seconds after, since the cooldown is 3 seconds, so. Got a Clarity Potion from the Winter Wyvern, which is nice, so I didn't have to use my Mango or anything. And with that many kills, I should be able to get a pretty fast boots, and this was a really nice start to our game. So again, I was playing with Lumi. I accidentally broke the Clarity. That was a pretty big mistake. Because that was pretty much a Quill Spray that I lost by doing that, by missing that. So we'll pull up the CS here. I think it'll be fine. I think I CS'd pretty well this game. Not really sure how I did in the lane as a whole, but everybody's pretty much missing, and that's because we killed them, so they had to respawn and come back to lane. There should be a Viper in the lane, actually. He was one of the heroes that died, so he had to walk back, and this, luckily for me, gave me a lot of extra last hits. So the way that Bristleback works is, if you're taking damage over time, if your back is turned to the person, then it does reduce damage, basically. So if Viper hits me with his ultimate, or he attacks me, and I'm taking poison damage, what you want to do is you usually want to turn your back to the source, wherever their hero model last was. So that means even if they die, for example, then you still want to turn your back to them. Picking up the fast boots here, pretty nice. I was thinking about getting a stick, but then I thought it's a Viper, he's not going to cast anything. And it's an Earthshaker, he's not going to cast very often, so getting a magic stick didn't really feel very useful to me. You always need to max out Quill Spray first, because it's your main damage source. There are some times where people will leave Bristleback at, or they'll leave Quills a little bit lower and max out Bristleback earlier, but I am not a huge fan of this, personally. I think there's situations where it might be okay, but not always. I missed two Quills there. That was a pretty big mistake. I was trying to get CS with them, but I messed up. So, lost about 100 mana there. Or 70 mana, that is. The most important thing you can do in the early game as a Bristleback is tank up as fast as possible. And that might either be buying a Treads, or if you're just taking a lot of harass, sometimes just a Ring of Health is what you need. This is a good camera position for me. It's where I should be looking. A lot of the time I was not quite in the best position for camera. I've also noticed that he doesn't have corrosive skin yet, which means that it's okay for me to harass him with quills a little bit. And I'm probably going to want to aim towards having a Ring of Health here first, because the Viper will be harassing me a lot. So I'm going to need some natural regen to try to make up for the fact that he is going to be harassing me constantly. I should have... that was a pretty big mistake. I'm going to go on the Viper here because he is taking bonus damage. I should have gooed a little earlier. I messed up the... I think I honestly could have killed the Viper there if I did mess up my animation a little bit. Let me slow down the mistake I made. Alright. First of all, I shouldn't have been here. I should have just quilled to get that last hit. But if we look at what happened, there's the fissure here, by the way. Right here, quill, I should have gooed right there. I attacked. I almost attacked again, and then I gooed. So not only did I goo a little bit late, but I could have started the slow on him earlier. And at this point, I realized I probably wasn't going to kill him, and I needed to back up. But at this point, I got a whole bunch of kills from the back. And yeah, I was able to kill the Earthshaker. This isn't really good, and I probably should have bought Treads before I died as well, but I didn't do that either. So small mistakes in animation there led to me not kill. That could have been a double kill, honestly. It would have been a double kill if I was slightly better with my animations. Just slightly better. The goo would have been on the Viper earlier. I could have slowed or hit him maybe one extra time, something like that. And that might have been the difference between me getting a double on the Earthshaker and the Viper versus just the Earthshaker. So pretty big mistake there. With me not buying Treads, this point I'll probably just save for the Ring of Health. It would have been nice to have Treads though, because with Viper not having boots yet, I very easily could have solo killed him. If I don't have Treads, it's a little harder. My camera position's terrible here. I should be looking at where the Viper is. It should be basically to the bottom left is where I should be aiming the camera, because I should be seeing where the enemies might come from. And it's really important to continue to do that, especially when you're playing offlane. Now, did I buy Ring of Health or Treads? Let's see. I bought Ring of Health. Okay. Which I think is smart, because I needed a little bit of regen to deal with the fact that he's harassing me, and I'm also out of tangos. I only have the mango and the south left, so this becomes a little tough. Again, watching the Earthshaker a little bit to see where he's at, and the Winter Wyvern's kind of in the area. We potentially can go aggressively on the Earthshaker, using quills to get last hits that I wouldn't have otherwise. I quilled that one a little bit late. What I should have been doing right now is watching the level of the Viper. If I look at him right now, he is level 5. So I didn't do a very good job with this at the game yesterday, but basically need to find out when he's going to hit 6 pretty much.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Not a huge fan of the skill build that he went for. He went for 3 corrosive. I think that's kind of a waste against Bristle, because, I mean, it does slow me extra, but he could also get that slow out of having his poison attack. I feel like it's a mistake to do it the way that he did it. Could have quilled that better. Taking a lot of damage. Luckily, the fissure was on the wrong side. If the fissure wasn't on the wrong side, I very possibly could have died there. At this point, Viper's still 5, so. Definitely want to pick up the Vanguard ASAP now, especially because you have the Ring of Health. I guess you could go Treads as well. It's not terrible, but ideally you would like to have Vanguard right off the bat. If you invest this heavily into the item components, it just gets a little better. Figured there's a very good chance that we kill the Viper here, because Lumi is rotated for a gank again. This is where the goo becomes really useful. If we had goo, there was no way that we were going to kill him. Fortunately, I lost my goo. And I had used my mango there for the extra quill spray. So, completely worth it though. Got a Viper kill. Nice little gank from Lumi.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
taking quite a bit of harass here. I think he's 6 at this. Oh, he's still 5. Wow. Really surprised. Alright, he hit 6 right there. I see that now. At the time, I didn't really notice. And there's the ult. At this point, you usually teleport away. But well played by them. The Earthshaker's in the area, so I probably should have thought about that. Viper's going to hit 6. Maybe Earthshaker's in the area. That's something I did really poorly on this tournament. This LAN at least, was that I didn't really think about where the supports were, and I've always kind of had that problem. I need to start working on it very severely. So I might play a lot of offlane. Maybe I'll play offlane in some solo queue rather than playing support. I'm not sure, but I want to learn offlane a lot better. I feel like it's a decent role for me, but I always feed too much is what keeps happening. The other problem with trying to TP like that is that I now can't teleport away. I can't teleport to lane because I failed my TP back to base, so because I now am far away from Vanguard, I decided to just go for the poverty route basically and do the half completed treads, which is not as much as a vitality booster, and it's not nearly as good as a Vanguard would be, but it'll make me have a lot more HP than like the high 600s that I would have had otherwise. Grabbed a magic stick as well because at some point I will buy it. So I should probably, like, I think it's very, very possible that I could have just dominated this entire game based on the early start I had, which is amazing. But because of those small positioning mistakes that I made, got me killed that other time, which was a trade. And, like, if I just didn't die, for example, instead, I figured he over. This looked like a kill to me. So he took a lot of quill damage. And very easy. A little bit of chase down there. If we look at the items he had, he's only got a Treads and a Abyssal and a Magic Stick. So I did, those 2 quills that I did actually did a very serious amount of damage to him. So I figured based on that, I was like, oh wow, he took a ton of damage from this. Now I just chase him down. And that's where Goo becomes really useful in the offlane situation because I wasn't a 1v1. Normally you have like a tri-lane situation, you're worried about dying all the time, but because the supports were constantly other places, it was pretty possible for me to be able to abuse that, basically. That was really nice. Lumi's did some really nice stacking here. He got a 3-stack. Stacking Ancients is something that you can really do to get fast levels and a lot of gold. It's actually impressive how fast you can Ancient stack with Bristol, and I think this is one of the things that makes him the best thing. One of the things that makes him really good in the offlane. Oh, I remember this. I used Quills here because I thought I was going to pull the creeps out, but then that stupid Thunder Lizard stopped to cast a spell, and I should have just walked in to aggro it instead, and that would have been much better. So that sucked. I basically wasted 30 seconds there and I didn't get a stack out of it, so that was really unfortunate. Looks like Steven was playing the Quap here, and he rotated the bot lane to farm because I wasn't there, but I was planning on going there afterwards. I maybe could have communicated that to him so that he could go mid instead, or maybe he could go top instead. Because I think at this point they were looking for a top gank, and it's not something that we could do. So at this point I said, whatever, I'm going to do the Ancients now. That was a nice sell from Luby, and that kept him alive. The Razor did pretty well this game. My CS is at this point pretty low, considering where it was in the early game. In fact, it looks like pretty much everybody in this game wasn't last hitting amazing. They were last hitting well, but not amazing. So one of the major things that separates super amateur players from pro players, just overall last hitting. Stacking this up one more time here. This time I didn't make the mistake of doing the quill, so I wanted to make sure it's stacked. And now you basically do what Bristleback does best, which is cast quills and turn around and let them hit you in the back. And because I'm taking 250 damage here, it's spamming more quills. Taking a lot here, but look how fast these are dying now. Like, isn't that amazing how rapid that was compared to like a typical ancient stacker, basically. Grabbed another back level. Finish the Vanguard, and that should allow me to finish ancient stacks. But I got a ridiculous amount of gold out of that, for sure. And one of the really nice synergies about having Bristleback with the Winter Wyvern is that I can just get healed to full. So all of a sudden I go from, I'm probably one of the higher in the net worths right now because of that. And I'm very close to the top at 4K. So that was really, really good for me that those stacks were there. I could have had one more stack, maybe peaked out at the net worth, but my 2 deaths definitely shouldn't have happened. Maybe the Earthshaker gank one is unavoidable where I TP'd, but the first one definitely shouldn't have happened. And either way, I could be sitting in a stupidly good spot here if I hadn't made that mistake. Even still, I'm in a good spot because I'm the offlaner. My net worth, I think, is much higher than the Viper's. Not that much higher, about 400, but I feel a lot stronger than a Viper right now, personally. With that many levels in Bristleback and the Treads and the Vanguard, I can basically take fights and delay tower pushes and all that good stuff. So I'm showing up to the mid lane to fight. I'm going to be late here, so I'm probably going to have to TP aggressively. And I actually TP'd the tier 2 because I was a little scared to go super aggressive. A little bit of tread switching whenever you want is really important to do. Great power shots can get Razor really low. Excuse me. Lumi got cleaned up there though. Oh god, I remember this. Asim was like, oh, I got him so easy. Then he ended up getting power shots, so it was a bit of a trade. Not really what we wanted, but we did defend the tower. And with them dead like that, it was time to push. Make sure you do tread switch a lot when you're playing Bristleback. Basically, every time you cast Quill Spray, you should switch to in-treads, because it reduces the mana cost of them, essentially, because you have a slightly higher mana pool. It's not a huge percentage of increase, but it is a percentage. It's probably, I've never done the math, but it's probably something like 10%. It's probably like a 10% increase in total Quill Sprays. It basically makes your spells 10% cheaper, is how you should look at it. So every time I cast Quill Spray, I always go to int, and I cast Quill Spray, and then I double tap it again. So I go from strength to int is 1, I think. Yeah, 1 to go to int, and then you press it 2 more times to go back to strength again. And the same thing when I'm wanding. Whenever I wand, I go to agility treads. And then I use my wand, and then I go back to strength treads or int or whatever I need them for. So Belt of Giant Strength here is going to be the beginnings of my Sange and Yasha. So it's fine to pick that up early. Just basic stats, HP, all the stuff that Bristleback basically needs. At this point, pressuring the tower is a little scary because we don't really see where that many people are on the map, and Razor's also shifting over, so I have to be a little careful here. Queuing up the rest of my Sange. More fighting going on. I'm looking if I need to TP. And at this point, I wasn't quite sure. I'm kind of playing like a carry role, basically. Like, sometimes you do need the vision. I was gonna have to TP here because the Razor would eventually just blow me up if I tried to run away or tried to fight him. I would lose that fight. So instead, I opted just to go mid. Luckily, I have a way to actually increase my damage. So all I have to do is cast a spell and I increase my damage by 30, and including my movement speed. So by him going to the top lane, I thought, oh, I don't think he TP'd there. I think he walked there. But if he's ganking me, I can just TP to the mid lane instead, group up with my team, and this should allow us to take a tower. So boosting on my damage a bit by casting quills. Looks like it's one to int and then 2 active strength, like I thought. Wasn't completely sure about that before. And bringing another strength piece to me, that'll be an Ogre Club, 10 damage, 190 HP, really good. Viper's quite tanky at this point, but it's just a mech, and I'm really not that worried about that, because I feel like Viper is... I'm not really at a threat of Viper being able to kill me.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
He TP'd somewhere, I'm not really sure where he was standing, but... very possible that they had a ward there. Not a huge surprise that we weren't able to get that kill. Warding's a little weak right now. We should have a ward probably protecting our jungle, like either on this cliff, or maybe over here, or maybe in the lane like this would be really good. Luckily, we have pretty survivable cores, so it's not like they're super likely to gank us, but something you have to be a little bit worried about. And again, we have to make sure that they don't take our mid tower, put any damage on it. So instead, I will shift to the mid lane here and tank that up very happily. My Vanguard's blocking all the damage, basically. Up to 40 damage is great. Creeps essentially do nothing. Looks like Viper's dying for nothing over there. And then Puck brought out his Blink Dagger, and I think kind of wrecked us down there. Thought the fight was going well, and then Puck just did that. So moments like that where a lot of people are dead, you should just be really aggressive, because there's a higher chance that they've shifted over to that position rather than towards you. So I should probably farm at least one more creep wave in the mid lane, because that makes them have to potentially come back and defend. If I just went off into my jungle instead, they would be able to pressure their tower, and at most I get a little bit of creep wave, or a little bit of experience. But again, neutral or regular lane creeps are much more experience and much more gold, at least at the speed that you're killing them, than other lanes. So we're split pushing top lane, we're split pushing mid lane. We'll see where the responding guys go. One of them went top, one of them went mid. So even though we did end up losing a tower out of that, I got about 2 creep waves, which is still 400 gold and pretty good. And in the meantime, Wind Ranger was pushing the top lane. She got a lot of gold out of the top lane as well. That was Tom playing Wind Ranger this game. So back to the jungle at this point. That's a safe place to farm, or I can wait for the creeps to meet mid, which is what I end up doing. Viper's here, which is a little scary, but not the worst, because again, they're a little bit weak on magic nukes. And with my Vanguard, I'm very survivable at this point. Plus all the strength items I have, honestly. It makes a huge difference. Keeping your towers alive is really important though, because it opens up the map in a lot of ways. And you'll see a lot more coordination in this game than your typical pub game, and that's basically because we are on TeamSpeak and we can mostly hear each other. We had some audio problems, but aim is basically to be as communicative as possible and to make sure that you're always pushing and defending towers and organizing and stuff like that. Should have gotten that last hit, but a lot of people are kind of running at me here. I'm basically just sitting here so that I can continue holding back the tower and making sure that it doesn't get killed. And now we said go, so now we're approaching. Luckily I was stopping the puck quite a few times here. Really good stun on the puck, guaranteed that kill as well. And we just wrecked them. And in the meantime, somebody killed them. I don't know where the Razor had died, but that was very good for us. There's basically nothing that the Viper can do to stop me, because I have 1800 HP. Like what does he do? He could ulti me. He maybe should have ultied me or attacked me once and started running away. But there wasn't a huge amount of stuff that he could do to stop me from just chasing after him. So as a result, we just run at them, and that's what Bristleback does. You run at them. They don't really have a very good way of stopping you or reducing your damage output. The puck didn't counter initiate because he kept getting his blink dagger broken, just because I happened to be pressing cools on the Viper. And at that point, it just becomes a really bad situation. We're backing out because they're all respawning. But we got another 2 creep waves out of that. We got a bunch of kills. We can back up and go back to passive farming again. So it's kind of like a pattern that you should be looking at to do when you're playing captain mode games. It should be organized like this. And so far, yeah, we made some mistakes, but as a whole, you do your movements organized if you're playing with friends or people that you feel are about the same skill level. So it's really good to practice this stuff. It increases your communication. It makes you understand the game better about how you react to certain things. And once you get all those reactions down, it becomes a lot easier to play Dota, basically, because you're understanding what you should be doing at all times. So used a little bit of cool spray there to hopefully stack the medium camp, and then it immediately went mid because it looked like they were pressuring it. And found a Rubik. But I'm pretty cool with this. We got one guy that's pretty out of position. Used my wand because it was mostly full. Some close on the puck to lower his armor. That was a great stun. I really wanted to get that Viper, but unfortunately he just would not die. I ended up going way overly aggressive and we lost a lot of heroes, so pretty big mistake by me to overextend like that. I think we lost a lot of people here. Oh, that's right. We actually lost everybody. Yep, I remember. Watch this. Boom. I don't know if he missed. I think he just didn't kill him. We lost 5 people for nothing. Can you believe that shit? It's basically because I overextended. Everybody was so low that I felt like I could chase after them and pick up the kill, but I was a little wrong with just so much damage I would take, and I ended up getting killed. So that was a really big mistake. If any advantage that we just had, we basically threw it away there. And if we look at the gold graph, we can probably see that reflected. Yeah, look at all this advantage we had. We had a 2k gold advantage, just threw it away for that 5-man fight. So this game could have been much easier, I think. Definitely could have been much easier if we just didn't throw that away. And that basically originated because of me. I should have gone on probably Razor or something instead. I mean, the Razor basically went on the line. Maybe the line shouldn't have been that close in range, but I should protect, like, part of the way that you play a run at them hero like Bristleback or Spirit Breaker or something like that is you have to run at the heroes that are threatening your other heroes. So even if it's a hero like Razor, even if I just put some nasal goo on him sometimes and slow him by 20% or 26% or whatever, it's decent, it's helpful, it helps my supports get away, rather than me just letting the Razor go through our backlines and potentially kill a lot of heroes. Something like that. So I think I definitely misplayed that fight big time, and it was mostly that I overdove and tried to kill the Viper, and he barely ended up surviving, so that was the issue. Viper was going for an Ags Rush. I don't like this build. I think a Razor and a Viper on the same team is kind of problematic because both of them are natural. They need mech in my opinion, both of them. Maybe not Razor as much, but I really feel like Viper needs mech. for the armor, and that's part of the reason that he's not a huge threat to me, is because his armor is so low that I can basically just right click him down, and I don't have to worry about that a huge amount. So I think that's one of the main issues with their draft here, is that those two heroes do not go together super well. They kind of fulfill a similar purpose. Him having a fast Ags is kind of helpful, but I still think it's a bit of a mistake. And I've finally got my Sange and Yasha finished here. If I had a Sange and Yasha, I definitely would have won that fight, because I would have been able to kill the, would have been able to chase down and finish off the Viper. But look at my movement speed. I'm at about 421 just from 2 stacks of Warcry. And my attack damage is really big as I'm casting spells, and you're always casting spells, of course. You get 25 damage every time you cast a spell, and a 4% movement speed. And oh, found their whole team here. I actually saw them a little earlier. Again, our gold graph was pretty close here. I end up getting cleaned up pretty easily due to a nice smoke from them. I assume that was a smoke. And it looks like, yeah, we lost 3 there. Like, think how different this is. That was like, that felt like a desperation smoke, but that wasn't a desperation smoke, because we were actually equal there. If it was, it's all basically because of the overdive mid. Because I overdove mid, we got 5 wiped. And then they also did that, whereas if maybe we didn't overdive and we won that previous fight, I could have actually just killed like 3 heroes or something like that. It looked very one-sided there, and largely it was, but look at that big gold swing just from like 2 little engagements there. It was a nice smoke gank though. They smoke ganked in with like everybody but Puck, I believe, and cleaned me up. They had a lot of good stuns where my face was, where I was facing the Razor. That made a huge difference as well. So, nicely done by them. At this point I realized that I'm not quite as tanky as I felt like I was, so I said I need to get a cloak, because they've got a Viper, they've got a Puck, they've got an Earthshaker, and they've got a Rubik, and those guys all kind of do a lot of magic damage together, so I really need to have a better way to deal with that, and I thought that Cloak was the way to go. And in fact, later on Puck had some, well, he has the Dagon right now, but with him having a Dagon, I really needed a better way to be able to deal with all the magic damage that they're putting out, so I opted to buy a Pipe. I think he realized that he was going to get stolen by the Winter Wyvern. And at this point they were pushing bottom, but we ended up going for the Rubik instead. Rubik ends up escaping. I considered TPing, but I was going to TP to the tier 2, and by the time I got there I doubted that I would be useful, so instead I opted for pushing and farming a little bit. So that was unfortunate. I should have been there for the bot fight, definitely. Or the bot push, whatever that was. It's not good to usually push with like 3 like that. As long as they know that you're somewhere else, they're going to go on you. If me and Lumi never encountered the Rubik in the jungle, then maybe they wouldn't have engaged on bottom, or they would have been a lot more careful about it. But the fact that we showed and revealed information that we weren't there allows them to say like, oh, they're not there, we very obviously can just go on them. And they went on them, and they got 3 kills, again killing everybody that wasn't there. So we basically threw advantage after advantage in this game, despite having a good early game advantage. We put ourselves in a really bad spot considering where we should have been. We had that triple kill to start the game, and my laning stage went pretty well. Looks like top went kind of poorly. Now that I have a cloak, I feel a lot better because my HP is very high, and all of a sudden I've got 20% extra magic resistance, which is a huge amount. But we still haven't really taken a good 5v5 team fight since we end up throwing, since I threw that one. So last hits is still pretty high for me. I think Aos and Ad. I've got a smoke here to get a little closer. It's a nice little double kill. They shouldn't have been fighting there, though. That definitely wasn't good. So at this point, the choices come down to AC, Heart. Sometimes you'll get a Pipe, and I think in this game I ended up buying a Pipe. But the other option, we ended up taking an easy Roshan because we had 2 dead heroes, so it's very unlikely that they would fight us. And with Goo, you can reduce Roshan's armor by a lot. So we opted to take Rosh. Very easy with Aghanos. Put the EC on the Wind Ranger because I am less likely to die. Abyssal got cleaned up there. The puck Dagon paying off. I don't know what level Dagon it was. Dagon 4, so quite a lot of damage actually. Very good against heroes like Quap. But what was I saying? Heart, AC, maybe a pipe, maybe an Abyssal Blade, depending on the game. I think usually the heart is the pickup. I think if they didn't have an overabundance of magic damage, I definitely would have just gone straight heart here. Because again, you're increasing your HP by 1,000, that would increase my HP by 50%. That's a huge amount. It's going to make my cloak work a lot better. It gives me 40 damage right click, and 4 more quill sprays if I take damage to the back. So really good item. But I think this game I needed to go for the magic resistance just because of that Dagon 5. Like if you Dagons me to my face, it's a really nice counter to kill Bristleback. But if I have a pipe and I'm able to absorb a lot of their nukes and they run out of nukes and their team is very cooldown heavy, it's basically they're almost all reliant on their damage or their spells to do damage basically. So because of that, if you just survive the burst and you outlast them a little bit, you end up winning team fights. Generally, if you have more DPS over time, which we do with Wind Ranger, with all that stuff. So spotting out the Winter White. Luckily, as a Glimmer came, so I decided to go aggressive. Kinda had to commit to killing him there. I maybe could have turned my back, but I felt like I was pretty hard committed there. I think I went a little overly aggressive. Maybe played that fight a little wrong. If anything, what I perhaps should have done was just put a little bit of nasal goo on every single person. Might have been a little safer. We were worried for him at this point because we thought there was a chance Puck could outplay him. But he ends up blinking and TPing away. He didn't have that much mana anyway, so he's a Dagon 5. And even at that point, I was like, I've got a cloak now, I've got a lot of HP. I was very survivable, but I still felt a little squishy. So I was like, I think I need to make a pipe, and I think this is the one time where it's okay. Some bristles used to go mech on bristle, but I don't think you can really afford that anymore due to the fact that the mech mana cost is increased to 225. So mech pipe is not something you should probably ever get on Bristleback anymore, but in the past it was kind of okay. But this game, I think going Vanguard, Sange and Yasha into pipe is still DPS enough due to the fact that they don't have super hard carries. They just have like medium tier carries, like it's like semi carries basically. They basically pick 2 semi carries with the Razor and the Viper. So I felt like going into a tanky item was going to be okay. It was going to allow me to be survivable. Let's say, for example, they didn't have a Puck with the Dagon 5. Let's say he was more of like a, I don't know, like an Ember Spirit or something. I would rather go for an AC instead. That would be a lot better. Something that wasn't super hard physical. An AC would be better because the armor you get increases your survivability by a huge amount, and also the minus armor that you get, which increases your right clicks, and your quill sprays would be really good. Or a hood, or a heart. Also a possibility. Kind of wanted to chase this guy because it seemed like they were spread. But at this point, I don't think we really wanted to fight. The static link was mediocre, but it's pretty weird for Lumi here. But we called the back off. It's pretty scary to play lands, honestly, because a lot of the times you're not really expecting where their team is going to be, or you're trying to, you're doing your best, but sometimes you get caught. That's why Lumi got caught here. Makes a lot more sense. Give him the goo. Trying to make it harder for him to get kills, but it was a big mistake for Lumi to get caught there. He should have retreated with the team. Instead, he opted to fly over trees and... Oh man, I can't believe it. Looked like we almost got everybody caught there. That was really scary. With the hood now though, 30% magic resistance. Not that much better than what a cloak gives you, but it does give you regen. That's pretty cool. 9 HP per second. And my Vanguard's giving me what, 6? So again, turn your back to the source and look how much damage it does. Almost nothing. That actually did nothing essentially. After all the regen was said and done, I took maybe 100 damage. So the hood helped a lot as well with that. So you're basically reducing it by 40% to the back to start things off, and then you're reducing it by your magic resistance, which is about 47 when you look at the reduction. So yeah, really didn't take a whole lot of damage there. It's basically like I took 60% after Bristleback, and then that was further reduced by 50%. So I took 30% of the nuke. So if the nuke was like 400 damage, I took like 120 damage, and then I'm regenning over that 6-second period of time or so. So really wasn't that bad. Our warding was terrible here, so everything was really scary. Except we just saw them bot. I don't know if that's a bug or not, but I don't know why we could see them there on the replay, but probably just bugs. I think when the puck orbs or something like that, it gives me vision on the replay in addition to them. No, it looks like Razor maybe. When he's using static field, it gives vision. I stole this jungle camp from the Wind Ranger because my pipe was so close to finishing, and I think this is worth it. Again, it gives me up to 400 HP to my allies, which will protect them, and gives them a 10% magic resistance aura. That's really nice. And yeah, for me, another 400 HP essentially. I don't think it counts as like Bristleback reflection or anything like that. And the game is a little scary here, but they have a slight gold advantage. Lost the Wind Ranger for nothing. That was unfortunate. Kind of just got picked off a lot. That's what it felt like. He eventually died. Took a while, but he did eventually die. And he actually got a Rubik in the meantime. I have no clue how he did that. I was really worried about Lumi here dying because they were just at top rune. There's a really good chance that they were just going to shift over. So he did get a D ward though, which is pretty nice. Found a Razor. Thought we should maybe go on this Razor. Broke the static link. He only got about 50 damage out of me. Not too bad. Lumi got caught, so I got to shift over. This is still pretty scary. We don't really want to fight until Wind Ranger comes back up. So, do you have a glyph though? They built a Lincolns on the Viper. I couldn't believe that though. I thought that was really poor choice. Against a Bristleback, you just don't build Lincolns. Like Lumi, I have no idea why he went in there. That was really weird. I made a mistake like that when I was planning on dying. It's like you run forward and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna cast a spell. I'm gonna run away, and then all of a sudden you realize you're in melee range or something, and then they just like blow you up. Those are the most embarrassing, I think, most embarrassing mistakes you can make. But he died again. Like how many like unnecessary pickups have we had this game? It was so many. There were so many times people would just die by themselves. But luckily for me, still farming, guys. Got to keep that CS up. Pipes up. Next item is heart for sure. Is what I built. If they have almost all magic damage, and you have a medium amount of HP, and then you get a magic resistance item, then it's time to pump up the strength, basically. Like, you just want to boost your HP. If they only have one damage source, and you've already gotten the armor item that you need, then you just, and they have a bad scaling. That's what it comes down to. It's about scaling. Alright, so let me try to explain this better. This is how you build tankiness. I actually want to pause the game for a moment to talk about this, because I want to make sure that I don't get distracted. This is how you deal with tankiness, if you're building tanky, if you're trying to build tanky. You look at their damage source. If it's all in on one type, then obviously you need to build towards HP as well as armor versus magic resistance. If it's all physical, then you need to build a mix of HP and armor. If it's all magical, you need to build a mix of HP and magic resistance. Now, the way that magic usually works is that it doesn't scale as well as physical. Physical is like an exponential curve, or at the very least, it's like a curve that just goes up diagonally. Like, it's just getting better and better and better and better, because you buy a damage item, then you buy your next damage item, then you buy your next damage item. Your damage just keeps going up. It goes up to a huge peak. Magic damage is different. It's pretty much based on being up to level 16. Once you're 16, it doesn't really increase that much. Maybe you'll get a refresher, or maybe you'll be a Lina and you'll grab an Ags and your damage will bump up again. But magic damage is very like stepping plateau. It gets to a certain point and then it doesn't really increase that much farther. Like once Earthshaker has all of his Aftershock levels, all his Fissure levels, once Rubik has all of his levels, and once Puck has a Dagon 5, it doesn't get that much bigger unless he gets an E-Blade. So basically, if you have a good HP point and you're against a stepping stone of magic which doesn't continue to scale late game with every item you get, then you buy a pipe. Then at this point it's like, okay, I'm already pretty darn tanky against what they get, and their damage isn't any higher, so now all I have to do is increase my HP, which is going to help me against the physical damage that's in the game, and it's also going to help me against the magic that is no longer going to continue going. I can basically continue to build my survivability past their point of damage potential as magic nukers. So at this point, Heart is the easiest decision ever. The only thing that is a little scary is the Razor ulti. If Razor went for an Ags refresher build, then I would probably instead have to build armor. But he went more of a utility build. He went Halberd, which I think was a huge mistake. That should have been yeah, like Yasha alone is fine. If he wants to go like Treads, Yasha, Mech, into Ag's Refresher, then I would have had a serious problem. He very likely could have killed me, but I think he got the Halberd to try to stop the Wind Ranger from attacking or something like that. But if he was worried about just me, he would have gone Ag's Refresher, because then he has tons of minus armor, and I wouldn't have been able to deal with that, and I would have had to build something else other than Heart. But if he doesn't have that build and he doesn't have a ridiculous amount of minus armor, I'm fine. I basically just tank up. It's time to tank up. I got my magic resistance. Time to get HP. So that's how it works. Magic nukes don't scale as well late game, whereas physical damage and tankiness can always continue to scale. But magic damage doesn't always scale super well late game, and that's a lot of the reason why supports aren't played as cores. Is because at a certain point, those heroes that have magic nukes don't continue to scale, and if you can't play them as cores because it's just going to be a liability. So very happy to break the Lincolns. And now we chase. They got a really good initiation here. That was Puck dying. Trading line for Puck, completely worth it. I pipe up here because we're going to continue chasing. And I'm just going to keep doing up the Razor because I want to make sure that he doesn't really do anything. My armor is actually quite low here. That was such a huge armor by Winter Wyvern. I felt pretty committed to that, but maybe I was wrong. That was such a good ult. Really good steals from Rubik right here. But, wow, he just got crit so hard. Really good 4-staff from Earthshaker. I should have quilled him there. I could have. I think I went a little too hard right-clicking the Viper. Maybe I should have played that safer. I should have turned my back. Because I keep getting to like 30% HP and I'm like, I need to man-fight this. And, well, in reality, what I probably should have done is I probably should have just turned my back from all sources if possible to go for the Quill Reflections. It does a lot less damage by far. It's basically like my decision is I think I should do my best to kill him before he kills me. But maybe at some points when you're playing Bristleback, it's better to just turn your back and say, I'm just going to try to stay alive. And maybe that was the better solution. With the Winter Wyvern being in the game and Lumi playing well there, I think it worked out really well because he basically covered my ass and said, oh, you're going all in trying to kill him, I'm just going to heal you. And that completely worked out here, but maybe it wouldn't have normally. They just got an Earthshaker kill for free. That was really cool. Really big kill. And back to Roshan. Couldn't very easily lower his armor with Nasal Goo. Just keep it up at 4 stacks to reduce his armor by, like, he got buffed recently. 2.2 times 4, so 8.8. Pretty good. Pretty good amount. And that slows by up to 32 plus 36, so pretty high. That's a 66%, I think a 68% movement speed reduction. I used to think that the first goo only slowed by 20, but it's actually 20 plus the slow per stack. I never thought about that before. So the first goo actually slows by 32%, which is a pretty big slow for 5 seconds. Not bad. It's really good to cast goo on multiple people over the course of the fight, if you can. Really good to do that, because you can only stack up to 4 times anyways. The only reason I kept spamming it on the Razor is because I wanted to guarantee that he wasn't going to be able to escape. Like, once he's out of position, I realized that. I kind of wanted to just run at him, continue to slow him, and make sure that he doesn't leave. Slightly ahead of Viper and Farm here. If we look at net worths, I am second highest, so this is pretty normal. If you're playing Bristleback well, you can keep your farm really high up. You have AoE, you right click very heavily, and your movement speed's really good, so you can go from camp to camp. Again, movement speed only good if you get Sange and Yasha. There's a game that we played later against a Bristleback where he did really well early, but he went for Crimson Guard and Vlad's, and it's just so underwhelming. Like, the Crimson Guard doesn't increase your damage at all. Yes. It just allows you and your team to win team fights, basically. So if you run at your opponent and they're Crimson Guarded, yeah, that's good, but then your Bristleback's not really applying anything in terms of a semi-carry. You're basically like low to medium damage if you go Crimson Guard Vlad's, and you're giving your team a lot of survivability. But that's not really what you need. You honestly just need the Sange and Yasha. It's such an important item on Bristleback. It honestly turns Bristleback from like low to medium damage to medium to high damage is how I would define it. So the Sange and Yasha is super important. Bam, Reaver's picked up. That's 25 more right click, and also 500 HP. Pretty nice to have. And it also gives you a very slight amount of mana or HP regen, something like, what's 0.03 times 25? 0.75 HP per second. Thank you, Reaver, for helping out. literally worse than a mango for HP regen, but the whole 500 HP and 25 damage thing is really nice. So I think we're grouping to smoke here. We told Tom to continue pushing the lane, and we were gonna show up through the lane to help him out. End up grabbing the bounty. Probably shouldn't have grabbed that realistically, but smoke broke. Knew there was a hero somewhere. Fortunately, the hex was just a little bit slow, but not too surprising. That was a tough hex. Nighttime smoke ganks are pretty tough. If you don't place wards as the smoke breaks, then it's very difficult to land your target correctly. So we lost our smoke opportunity, but it scared them, I guess. So we got that going for us. Highest net worth is the Wind Ranger here. I'm second. And I would love to finish my heart, but it's going to be a while. It's about a 5,000 gold item. It's pretty expensive. Pop the pipe because I'm anticipating them trying to kill the creep wave. I'll again turn my back on the Viper temporarily, but I've got the pipe up anyways, so it's not a huge deal. We're basically just trying to kill the tower and then get back. We have Aegis here. We do still have Aegis. That's why he was playing so aggressively there, because he could. So got the tower. We can back out now. Got a slight tactical advantage over our opponents. And now it's called a fake back. You basically back up, and your opponents think that you left completely, but in reality we're still sitting here. We probably should have had a gem because there's a high chance that they just had an observer ward spotting us, but you know, they didn't really fall for it, and we decided to come back out. And I don't remember if we pushed or not here. Looks like we ended up TPing back to defend. That was Yosin going back here. There's an Ags and a BKB. Not really the best QoP game, I guess, if you think about it. And in fact, Puck did a really nice job trying to shut down the QoP. Basically just blew him up in team fights. That's one of the solutions to heroes that are very able to get away. You just get a Dagon, and then you just kill them before they can blink away. It's kind of cool. Kind of a cool difference. I remember there's a game. I've talked about this before. I don't know if I have on replays or not, or videos, but there's a game where we played against an Invoker and Blitz with Storm, and rather than going for an Orchid like an Invoker normally does, he just built a Dagon. And he would Tornado, EMP, Cold Snap, Dagon, and he would die before he could roll. Like, that's all it took. He didn't dick around with an Orchid. He just kept ahead of him. He made sure that his damage in reference to the Storm's HP was always enough that he could one-shot him, and it resulted in him just being an absolute menace towards Storm Spirit. So that was really cool. It's a solution sometimes, right? So maybe Puck shouldn't have gone Dagon 5, but because he has it, he got a couple kills on QoP that normally that he maybe wouldn't have had before. And this has resulted in Eosin not having a very good game. His farm rate is below the enemy offlaner, so kind of cool. An interesting thing to think about. Very close to my heart now. You need 2,500 gold after the Reaver because they reduced the Reaver cost. Used to be like 3,300 or 2,300. Now it's 2,500 to finish it. So getting close. Bought the Vitality booster. I probably shouldn't have, honestly, because you know, I think it's fine to finish the heart because I felt in a fairly good position here, but buyback is still very important. But luckily for me, I felt like I'm tanky enough and our team play had been good enough, and I didn't really feel like their aggressive ganks would be good enough to pick me off. That, I mean, realistically, I probably should say for buyback, but I really wanted to have my heart because it really does increase your survivability by a lot. Just missing about 100 gold here, and I should have my heart finished. Or 200? It's 1,400? Yeah, 1,400 recipe now. So needed like 2-3 neutral camps to be able to finish that. So finishing that up gives me an extra 15 damage from strength and an extra 500 HP. Now we're just kind of passively farming, so I want to finish my item, because it does make me so much better. Again, that's another 2 quill sprays, which could be a couple hundred points of physical damage. First quill does 80, second quill does 126 or 116. Pretty good. And 60 or 36 extra damage from there on out. So now I have my heart. And these items look really good. Basically the treads Vanguard, Sange and Yasha, and the heart. That right there is amazing. But having a pipe on top of it's just, look how difficult it would be to kill me with any magic nukes. You basically need a ridiculous amount of magic damage to be able to kill Bristleback in this case. And the one thing I'm really missing is armor. And this was the point I was thinking about, like, do I get an AC? Do I get an Abyssal Blade, and that's very later in the game. Apparently we did nothing for a very long period of time in this game, but I think we were waiting for Roche or something like that, I'm not sure. We had BKB up on Wind Ranger, I had my Heart finished, Aosin had his BKB, Winter Wyvern was really farmed this game, he had a Shiva's Guard. Really nice item to, if you have weak carries, such as like Viper or Razor, just having a Shiva's against them is really useful, really reduces their damage output. I think we're grouping to either Roche or Smoke here. I think we saw somebody over there. You know, I don't know if Tom made that mistake. At the time, we thought that Tom made that mistake. Let me see. Let me see where the smoke breaks here. So it should have been Lion going first for the Blink Hex. I think he just... It wasn't Tom breaking smoke. What happened was the puck just happened to back because all the creeps were dead. But it should have been Lion in the front, and the result was that we broke smoke on the Wind Ranger here. So we were basically just a little bit too late. If we had smoked maybe a second earlier, or maybe I came from neutraling a second earlier, we would have killed the puck there. So that was a really big mistake. And our smoke ended up failing there because our initiation was poor. So we basically go back to waiting for another smoke or Roshan, I believe. That would have been a big kill. We probably could have pushed with that. And maybe we could go high ground if we look at the gold graph. We're ahead, but not a huge amount. More good old jungling. Just checking for Roche, I think. I was like, wow, we need to speed this game up. It's going too slow. And I was already in 2x speed. Razor farming way too far out here. At this point, it's really hard to land the stun. Luckily, she ended up landing it. That was a very, very big stun. If she didn't land that stun, Razor probably would have gotten away, and we wouldn't have had that kill, which wouldn't have allowed us to push. So the fact that he farmed up there and ended up getting picked off was really good for us. And I think that allows us to Roche then. Speed this up as we blow it up. So I'm holding the cheese. I think, I don't know if I was keeping that or what, but we should be able to push now, but very rapidly they're going to go for the split push, which is completely normal. Because they know that we're going to be going for a team fight, aka going high ground. I passed the cheese to Aosin here. And they're split pushing, but that's fine because we're going for the Rex. We did lose the tier 2. Wind Ranger had a BOTs.
Radiant structures are fortified. Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
He's dead. Pretty easy Rubik kill. I hit really hard now. Good dunk. Look how survivable I am. Isn't that ridiculous? Oh, it's such a sick heal. That was such a good heal from Louis. And I heal so much, 229 per half second or something like that. That's like incredible how much he heals. He passed me the cheese here. He told me about cheese and we went aggressive basically. Heart's paying off. Every time I cast the goo on the Razor though, it reflects 200 damage, which is a little annoying, but... Lumi probably shouldn't use that on me. It probably should use it on somebody else, I think. Really good synergy between Winter Wyvern and Bristleback, though. I was quite happy with it. They were spamming, they were saying get back, so we ended up retreating there. I kind of felt like we could have continued, but... Rubik shouldn't be able to catch me. Every time I cast a spell, I run a little bit faster. And after that teamfight went, all of a sudden I have like 4,000 gold. So the call was either AC or Abyssal Blade. And I think we ended up calling for Abyssal Blade because we wanted some better carry potential to lock down the hardcores. But thinking about it now, I kind of feel like I should have just built the AC, honestly, because the amount of HP I have right now, if you could leverage that with armor as well, like, I still almost died in that last fight. Like, it was pretty close and pretty dangerous. It's hard to say, though. I feel like, let's take a look at what their items are. They have an AC on Viper, which means that right off the bat, I'm already losing 5 armor. I'm going from 13 to 8, which is pretty darn low considering how much HP I have. And the Razor went for Halberd, Ags, and he got a Vitality booster, which maybe for a heart or something. It should be like a Butterfly, though. Well, I guess they already have MKB, so maybe not Butterfly, but I don't know. I feel like AC was the build in this position because my HP was so high. But Abyssal Blade is also very, very good on Bristol. In reality, what I should do is I should have Abyssal and AC to finish out my items rather than having a Vanguard. But obviously, you build the Vanguard early, it pays off the entire game, and at some point, it becomes a little useless. But much less than an AC. It gives me far less survivability than an AC would. It's not even close. Fight started, it wasn't there in time. Luckily, Earthshaker died at the start. That was such a great stun. Basically guaranteed our teamfight win there. They blinked away. Basher actually did help a little bit. I bashed the Viper once or twice. But I'm pretty much unkillable at this point. More or less. The fight was them starting a fight in their favor, and didn't go well for them at all. The big part was that the Earthshaker died. Lumi got his ultimate off. He did get stolen, which delayed me on the left, but it didn't really do very much because I hadn't been casting spells, so my damage output wasn't very high. Like right now, I casted 4 times. I've got plus 161 damage. That's like 120 physical damage. If I haven't casted spells and I'm only hitting for a little bit over 194, then Lumi's fine because he's got to freaking Shiva's guard. You know, like as long as I don't cast spells, like it was good that he stole it, but it didn't do that much basically. It just delayed me for like 4 seconds. So that was the first game that we played at the tournament, and that was my Bristleback game. And I feel like I just feed too much. That's the problem. That's what I learned this weekend. I just feed too much. I always feed like a couple times in lane, and you really can't do that if you want to be a really good offlane player. So I'm going to try to work harder at offlane because of that. So I definitely have a shitload of videos coming for you guys this week. There was at least 3 good games worth commentating, I felt, where we didn't get stomped at the tournament. And I won't talk about the results here. I'll probably talk about them when I stream. But yeah, we had a lot of good games. I also played a lot of pubs today that went really well with a lot of weird heroes. I played a Clinks game that went well. I played a PL game that went really well, and none of those other heroes on the list. But I do have a Timber Saw game coming for you guys from this land, so I'll be uploading that one as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it, and I will see you guys tomorrow with a video.